Tape Deck Media.
Good morning, Ramblers. Welcome back to another episode of Ruddle Me This. I am, as always, your host, Taylor Vincent Van Go Get the Hell Out of Here, Ruddle. I've got an absolute treat of a guest for you today, something super unique. We haven't had anybody from this world on the podcast yet, so I am tickled pink to be posting this episode. You can tell I've just woken up and haven't completely recovered the ability to speak yet. I'm trying to enunciate better on these things. I'm sure if you've ever seen a video of me, you'll notice that I only kind of speak out of one side of my mouth. I have that Elastigirl from The Incredibles thing, whatever's going on there. Anyway, we are getting too much into the weeds with this. Let's get on to the show. Today I am joined by Anna, who is the owner and, I guess, operator of Paint and Sip Christchurch. They are an art studio with a sort of social, inclusive vibe going on there where you can head along, have a few drinks and do a painting. They've got properly qualified teachers and a sort of host to help the evening move along smoothly. And what's really cool is they are operating straight out of the Arts Centre here in Christchurch, which if you're not from Christchurch, it is one of our sort of big heritage touristy parts of the city. So it was very cool for me to get to go along to their studio and record the podcast actually in the Paint and Sip studio. So like my laptop and microphone were literally sitting on these desks, which were covered in dried paint, and we're looking out the window at all these old Gothic architecture buildings of the Arts Centre. So as you can imagine, the audio quality might be a little bit strange at points. I think there was even one point where we heard some pigeons flying overhead. It might be a little bit echoey. I'm going to do what I can to tidy that up in post. But I think it'll be a fun experience. It'll feel like you're really in the room with us. So Anna brought her list of 5 tiny joys, and as always with this podcast, they go off in some fascinating directions, and the last one was very heartfelt and wonderful, so I'm looking forward to you hearing that. A couple of plugs to get in before we start the episode. On the 5th of June 2024, I'm going to be a guest speaker on Nerd Night, which is a sort of, it's public speaking. It's going to be pretty funny, I think, and features 4 speakers, and they all basically get to geek out about a topic of which they choose. I think generally there are a lot of scientists and people that actually know a lot about the topic they're talking about. I'm going to be talking about professional wrestling. My speech is called The 4 Flavors of Professional Wrestling, and it is about how the 4 big markets of wrestling in the world, America, Mexico, Europe, and Japan, all have a distinct different style from each other, and like reflecting of the countries and the cultures that they come from. So I will chuck a link to that in the show description. You can get along, come and see me witter on about wrestling for a little bit. I've also got a public show. We're doing Beats by Bingo, which is musical bingo. That is on the 7th of June. That's Friday out in Rangiora at the Winnebago's Rangiora. That's such a fun night. Play some music, win some prizes. Just head along to my Facebook page if you want more information about that. And then the following week, on the 11th, we've got a new Tuesday night quiz coming out. I know there are some people that they like the G quiz format. They like me as a host, but they couldn't make it on Wednesdays. So now you've got another chance to do that. Every Tuesday at the Archie Brothers Cirque Electrique, which is, most people probably know that as the Holy Moly Golf Centre in the Hoyts Entex building here in Christchurch. There's a cute little carnival-themed bar, which I believe is the Archie Brothers bar. So that's where we're going to be doing the quiz night. So that is from 6:30 o'clock, same as the Moi Moi quiz. It's even not too far from where the Moi Moi quiz is. It's just a couple of streets over. So come along to that. They've apparently already been getting some calls, people asking how to book, so I think it's going to pop off. It should be a fun way to spend your Tuesday, and from what I've been working with them so far, the Archie Brothers company, all the managers and the staff are super generous, so I think they haven't exactly told me what yet, but I think we're going to be giving away a stupidly generous pile of prizes. Alrighty, enough of my palaver. Let's get on to the interview. So, Ruddle Maniacs of all ages, please welcome to the show Anna from Paint and Sip. Hello, Anna. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Taylor. Thanks for inviting me to join.
Great to be here. I'm sure that the listeners will be able to hear a little bit of an echo because we are actually in your very own studio here today recording the podcast. So hope the listeners don't mind the echo, but I think it'll be a little treat, something kind of different. And the cover will have a photo of the studio in it as well, so go and check that out if you're listening. But I'm very excited to record this. How are you kind of doing?
Oh, we're doing great. I mean, you walk into a cavernous art studio like this, and you can't help but smile because it's just uplifting.
Yeah. No, it's is this the first studio you've ever owned?
It's the first business that I've owned, but we started off in another physical location over an island by the uni.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, yeah. I used to drive past that all the time.
Right.
I guess, I'll probably say this in the introduction, but Anna is the sort of owner-operator of Paint and Sip Christchurch. You're not a chain, are you? Just Christchurch.
Not a chain, just a one-off.
And I'm sure the listeners will have, like I said before, driven past the Island area or seen the one in the Arts Centre, but the Arts Centre is where we are right now. And I had a little bit of a walk around the courtyard before. I had a little bit of a sip of coffee, and it was very nice. It felt very OG Christchurch to be here.
Yeah.
You moved from the Island space. When did you come over to here?
So we moved over in 2020. So we knew that our lease was coming to an end over in Ilam after 6 years there, and had started scoping out a space in town because we knew we wanted to come into Central Christchurch as it had come alive again. We had found this beautiful space at the Arts Centre before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, which put things on hold for just a wee bit.
Yeah.
But after a short delay, we decided to double down and commit to the move and opened our doors here in November of 2020.
Wow, that's a tough time to open a business. But for the listeners, I guess Paint and Sip is a kind of social painting class. Would that be an easy way to sum it up for people? Have you got a better
definition? That's a very accurate way of putting it. But we also do, so the way I like to call it, it's art, entertainment, and education. Yeah. Because yes, I think the bread and butter and the way the business model started was predominantly for adults to have something creative to do. We're also a fully licensed bar, so it's
take note, listeners.
So we have a very wide selection of drinks that you can choose from. All of our evening public sessions that are more than 2 hours, 2+ hours, include nibbles as well, because we are a bar, we have to have food as well.
Yes, yeah.
So we give you a nice spread of food to go along with your creative social activity. But the education part is also because we do a lot of educational related art classes. So we, do after school art classes for kids. One of my passions is life drawing. So we do offer life drawing classes, either academic style or also, fun, naughty, nude hens parties. A lot of, private events.
Yes.
So there is an educational component as well.
Because if I'm not mistaken, the way your classes run is you have a kind of host and then a teacher. Is that what it is?
Correct. So all of our classes, we always have a minimum of 2 artists on hand. So myself, I have my undergraduate degree and my master's in arts. So fine art for my undergraduate and interaction design actually for my master's. But all of my team are either graduates of or in the process of getting their fine arts degree. Wow. So we are all qualified in that way. We all have a passion for art. We all love doing art, but in any session, you always have 2 artists here, one of whom kind of operates in that host function to allow you to, choose those drinks and get those, nibbles on board. So,
do you also run classes like that yourself, or have you kind of moved into more of a managerial, overseer?
I do sometimes run the classes myself, so I do can do any of the roles. So I kind of bounce around. I do obviously spend a lot of the time kind of running the operations. So I have an amazing team of staff who are awesome at doing the day-to-day classes, but I'm here most days and I'm often here to either fill in for a shift or take on a session for myself.
That's brilliant. Was it a skill that you've always had to be able to present to a room of people as you're painting, or was that something you had to learn sort of by doing, or I don't know, maybe you have some way you learn?
That's a very good question. I think probably getting in front of people and presenting and or teaching and or entertaining is something that I've done for a lot of my life. So I actually played music when I was in uni and actually toured around and was a musician.
What did you play?
I played drums and bass,
Very
so
cool.
different bands, just uni bands, so nothing
Did they have
particularly professional, but...
Did they have any... I'm obsessed with band names. Did they have any cool names?
I don't know. It depends on how you define cool.
What were the names, if you remember them?
Well, I don't want anyone to actually look up the music and try to find it, but
we can move on from that.
Yeah, quite a variety of different names, some of which are incredibly cringe because, you're 18, 19, 20.
Yeah, it goes with the territory.
But at the end of the day, it was an absolute blast and definitely gave me the bug for getting in front of people and learning things like if you're having fun, the people you're in front of are going to have fun. And I think that's one of the key things that we try to promote is you're here to have a creative experience, but if we're having fun doing that creative experience, it really creates an environment that helps everyone in the room also have fun.
Yeah, it's very infectious, I think. Joy is infectious.
True.
Well, that's brilliant. So is there anything else that I should have asked you that I've missed out on that you'd like people to know about the Paint and Sip studio? Like, I guess when you said they're mostly sort of in the evenings, they're about 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock kind of thing?
So most of our evening sessions are 6:30 to 8:30, but we do specialty things like Paint Your Pet Nights, which are 3-hour sessions. So that's like a 6 to 9 o'clock session. And then a variety of kind of weekend afternoon sessions that are family friendly, and private events that can happen any time of day or night. So
that people can, if they would like to book you for a birthday party or something like that, they can go to your website and check that out?
Yep, they can check out all the details on the website. They can look at our calendar that shows you what's already taken. Yeah. And then we just work with them to find the best time and date and go from there.
Brilliant. Well, I think that gives the people out there a pretty good picture of it. I'm sort of hoping to attend one of them, but I work in the evenings as well. So I think it's
a tricky thing.
Trying to find a day that I can come along is a tricky one, but I'm sure I'll end up in here. I've just sort of the last time we first met, the last time I was in here, and I was admiring the studio, and it's actually got a stage, which I think I told you makes it already one step ahead of a lot of venues in Christchurch that try to put on comedy as they don't have a stage in the first place. So it's
let's hope that we can try to come up with a collab to do some comedy and painting at the same time.
Yeah, we've been working on some ideas. I think it feels like we're going to go for some kind of a mixer, whether that's romantic or professional. We're not really. We'll figure something out, I think. But I'd love to do something. That covers the kind of studio. So what is the website people can check out if they want to find out more?
So it's just paint, the letter N, sip.co.nz. And we were the very first of its kind in all of New Zealand. So if anything that says paint and sip, it's only us. Again, we're not a franchise. Yeah. We're only in Christchurch, and we are the OG.
Yeah,
so.
You said you get sort of plagued by a lot of fakers trying to copy the sort of, not the branding as such, but I think the fact that the N can be AND or whatever. That's that ambiguity. People like to sort of piggyback off what you've done, right?
And there's other studios, and that's fine. They operate using the same format. That's 100%. Legit. Yeah. It's just tricky when local studios nearby actually do their advertising and branding using our name. Yeah.
And I think Anna's too polite to say anything mean, but I'll say screw those haters. Don't go to those. Don't support any knockoffs.
Aw. Thanks, Taylor.
No, I'm here for you. And go and check that out. And I'm sure the people that attend regularly might see me here in some capacity.
That would be great.
So shall we get on to some of your tiny joys? You've written some down.
Yeah.
What was your first tiny joy there?
My first tiny joy was opening a fresh set of whiteboard markers and using them, because the whiteboard ink is like completely like saturated, and any mark you make is just so clear on the whiteboard, and it's just
because there's no worse feeling than a dry whiteboard marker when they're toward the end of their life.
Or they've been left slightly uncapped, and they look like they've been closed, and you go to use it, but barely anything comes out. But
because I'm just looking over at your whiteboard here, and because I thought is there a whiteboard in here? And then I turned my head and went, oh yeah, there's a whiteboard in here. I guess I'm kind of curious about this. How many whiteboards markers do you tend to go through? What's your kind of turnover for those?
You burn through them pretty quick, I'd say, especially because you want people to be able to read what you've written. And so when you've got that fresh set, you know you're going to get all the juiciness out of it. And so I'm constantly exploring the different brands of markers, and some are a bit of a disappointment right out of the package, so I know what to avoid. But some of the more higher priced, high value markers, you can get a bit more longevity out of.
I love this kind of talk of exploring different brands and such. I'm sure I have some examples from my own life that I've been trying bits and pieces, but maybe as to not name and shame any bad ones, but what are some of the better brands that you've managed to find?
The Faber-Castell or Faber, I don't know how you pronounce it, but they've got an awesome one that gives you a magnet. Oh, it's 2 colors in one pen, so one on each side. And there's a magnet on each cap. So not only do you get 2 colors in one pen, and they're super juicy, they stick to things that are magnetized. So that's like a win-win-win.
So you can leave it on the board and it won't fall down.
And it won't fall down. And then you can choose what color you want, A or B. And they tend to just have a really nice, rich color. So that's probably one of my top favorites of, fresh, brand new markers.
I love getting into the weeds of this kind of thing here, because I'm trying to think of when I've had a similar experience of like a fresh pen. I used to use these little, they're like, I think it might be the same brand as that, Art or something, but they were like fine liners, and we used to do line drawings, and that was always the sweetest feeling, is when you had a new one of those, and that first line that you put on the page was just like, there's no weird like paper showing through or anything like that. That was fantastic. Do you have, I'm looking at the board now, you've got a sort of turquoisey colour written up now. Do you have a favourite colour for whiteboards?
Of the markers, I think probably the blues, the purples, the oranges, anything kind of bright and intense. I think even the brown tends to be like quite juicy and like have long lasting, qualities to it. It is kind of funny because you can get yellow, which doesn't work very well.
That's a tough color.
But it's nice. I mean, it's a pretty color if you want to draw something, but from trying to present information doesn't work so well.
Not the most readable color.
But hard to narrow it down to one color.
I was going to say as well, the with whiteboard markers, I lost my train of thought completely there. I'll move on to my next question. I had another follow-up question about whiteboard markers, actually.
I love that you can deep dive into something as mundane as a whiteboard marker.
Well, I'm sure anyone that's listening to this probably has the same kind of experience. Like, I'm trying to think of something really obscure, like maybe you shoot pool or something like that. There must be no better feeling than like a fresh pool cue, like that kind of thing. Like I'm sure it's transferable to all sorts
anything
of
fresh and
The I guess we could also expand a little bit into, have you got anything about art supplies on there, or is that your kind of only
I think that's my only art supply.
So I guess my next question was, we could talk a little bit about art, because I did I think I've got like an NCA level 3 art qualification or something, so I have painted previously, but do you have a favorite medium that you like to paint in?
I love watercolors. I love that there's a certain element of lack of control. I mean, you learn through using them how to kind of create control
as best you can,
but there's some of the fun in that is when you let it do its thing and let go of the control. So I think there's quite a lot of fun in that.
I was looking at, you've got young children, so I'm guessing is there Pokemon in your house?
There's definitely Pokemon in my house, yes.
I remember from when I was a child looking at the little booklets that come with the game, and it has artwork of all the Pokemon in it, and they had they're all done in watercolor style, but I didn't realize they were watercolor at the time, but they have this very distinct, it's I guess it's the way the water interacts with the grooves on the paint, that you get those kind of fluff, little spiky, fluffy edges on watercolor, and I think, that's it's like you can't recreate it. Do you know what I mean? If you tried to draw something like that with your hand, so you have to kind of just let the water do its thing, and then that's how you get that cool kind of watercolor. And it
sounds like you've also described the type of paper they would have done it on, because there's like a there's like a hot press and a cold press. So if you want more of that texture, you get like a cold press paper, and you get like more ridges. Yeah. And different brands have different ridge qualities.
Do they call it being toothy? Is that what a toothy paper is?
I would say that. It's probably accurate.
That's great. Do you have any artists that people could check out that you like to look at that do watercolor?
Ooh, probably. I'm just.
It's hard. I just put you on the spot.
Putting me on the spot.
One of my favorite watercolor artists I can give out. I think she is like, not Norwegian. She's from one of the Baltic sort of countries, and her artist name is Agnes Cecil, and she does these things where,
writing that down.
Yeah, look her up. She's got some really cool videos on YouTube where like she'll do a bit of watercolor, and then she'll hold the board up so that it drips down to the bottom, and then she does this cool thing where she will do a bunch of like those watercolor splatter things, but then she'll go around the edges of one of the shapes with like a white pen, and she just does all this crazy cool stuff, and that blew my mind when I first saw her when I was like 17 or something.
Nice. I'm definitely gonna look that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I feel like there's one more that I'm forgetting that I've recently gotten into their work, but it's not coming to me at the moment. So yeah, did anyone come to you when I was talking about that?
No, I still have a Monday mind.
No, that's all right. Yeah, it is indeed Monday. So then I was going to say, my art teacher always used to insist that like oil paints were like, if you're not painting on oil paints, then you're not doing real painting. And she just had this massive fixation on oil paints, which when you're a teenager, you don't really. It just takes too long to dry, so you have to wait for
it's not something that you complete in one class,
And so I was just used to like doing the acrylics. What kind of is it? Looks like acrylics maybe around here? Is that the main thing?
So acrylics for sure, just because they are water-based, so there's nothing toxic about them. Whereas oils, you're often using terps or other kinds of toxic mediums that create smells and take forever to dry.
Because what was Bob Ross always used to have that can of like paint thinner or something that he would beat the devil out of.
Yes. So he would have been absorbed a lot of toxins in his day. Yeah. And that's interesting what you say about your art teacher, because I do think I've had this conversation just the other night with someone, how there is kind of almost like an elitist
that's what it felt like
viewpoint to art, where if you're not doing this particular style or this particular medium or this particular academic quality, then it's not real art. Whereas we are the exact opposite of that belief, which is every human being is their own work of art, and whatever they produce is what they've created at the moment. So there is no wrong way to do it, and wherever you're at and whatever you created is what you were meant to do in that moment. So we are the antithesis of elitist when it comes to art, because we think, art is for everyone. So we do get experienced artists that come through the door because perhaps they've been dragged along with their friends, and they're almost embarrassed to admit that they are artists, because they think, we're in an environment where this isn't for real artists. But by the end of a session, they're like, actually, that was so much fun because I still experience that high or that state of flow or that being in the zone, just because you're connecting your hand with a paintbrush to a canvas and being absolutely absorbed in an activity. And it doesn't actually matter what the medium is and what the actual end result is, because that's what you created on the night. So
I guess you would, given that you've done so much study of art, you would be very familiar with the philosophy of like, done is better than perfect, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I've had family members and friends and other people in my life that have always wanted to try getting into art, but because it's not like, to their eyes, it's not good or whatever. I did air quotes there for the audio listeners. It's like they don't even want to try. But have you discovered any way to encourage people like that, or help them get over that hurdle of like, it doesn't have to be? I think I heard a great quote which was like, art it doesn't have to be good for you, or something.
And that's a beautiful way to put it. And I think we always address the elephant in the room, which is that people do, and a lot of adults especially, have an inner perfectionist. And so they expect that if it's not perfect, that it's wrong. And so at the start of all of our adult sessions anyway, we do always bring that up. We're like, if you do have an inner perfectionist, please ask them to leave the room. They do not belong here.
I like that.
We can then stay here and actually just enjoy the process. And we always encourage people, just put your own spin on whatever you're creating. Everyone's is going to turn out unique and different. And it's never a competition about, who can get it the most accurate, air quote, or right, because there isn't one right way. No. So we do always try to address that aspect of it.
I wonder if the seagulls will be coming. The listeners might have heard like a bunch of seagulls go flying over the top of us.
Yeah, we're sitting under a big skylight.
Yes. It all adds to the vibe, I think. But no, I think that's great. So yeah, just if anyone's listening and you're thinking like, what is the inner perfectionist?
Yeah,
don't worry about them.
Just leave the inner perfectionist behind.
Exactly.
And there's a quote that just came to mind that has escaped me, but if I think of it later, I'll say it.
Wonderful. So yeah, anything else you wanted to add about whiteboards? You see, remember I told you at the start we were going to end up very far from where we started.
No, I think that's
all right. Let's move on to your second tiny joy.
So my second one is, I wrote eating stale cheesy poofs, or whatever the equivalent of the.
I think.
It's not just the fresh ones, but something about the stale ones.
Yeah.
It has this certain textural quality, which I wouldn't say is a good flavor, but something about that texture I find so satisfying.
It's the ones I think that would be the closest. Are they like Cheetos? What you're thinking of?
It's the ones that are perfectly cylindrical, but they're in like a rainbow shape, but it's like an extruded tube, and you can't get the exact ones in this country that I grew up with, but they have versions of that. I
think the closest ones here might be like twisties or something, because just the texture of those, is that similar to cheesy poofs?
It used to be, but I think they've changed the formulation.
Always change these things
fairly recently, because it's not that cylinder anymore. It's now like almost like there's a squarish edge to it that I don't recall. I don't get them enough to know when the change might have occurred. So it's not quite right, but I can still evoke the memory of the exact version of the product that I miss the stale version of. So it was never a travesty when you left the bag open, because there's something about that. Instead of it being perfectly crunchy, there's like a slight chew before it gives. And something about that texture just speaks to me.
I've recently sort of experienced that with popcorn. I've heard that they're a good snack to have because they're fibrous, and so
trying to eat some more of it.
Just fiber in general is good. And so I thought, let's get a big bag of popcorn. And then I had that exact same thing where the second day after leaving it open, it's like, it doesn't break. There's a bit of resistance to it, and
it is a very similar quality.
I can absolutely see why the textural change there would be satisfying. I'm just trying to think of what other foods are better on the second day. How do you feel about cold pizza the morning after?
I like pizza in all its stages. So cold is
you don't discriminate?
I don't discriminate. Yeah, I know sometimes it's like, the beauty of the cold pizza. But if it's cold or it's hot, and I have one of those like flat sandwichy press thingies. So, you put a piece of cold Sal's pizza on there and you get the bottom crisp again. Something about that gives me that perfect, New York vibe.
That's
of
right.
Reheating it.
Because I feel like I'm going to ask a taboo. Are you American?
Yes. Why is that taboo? I mean, we are who we are.
more like I've misidentified American or Canadians as Americans before, and I understand that's a bit like when people think we're Australians, and so people get defensive about it a little bit. But
I don't know Americans that get defensive about it. We're like, whatever. Or the accents are very similar. Sorry, Canadians.
I realised something interesting, and I think you'll probably be able to experience this a little bit as you've been in the country for a while, but I guess you still would have had the immigrant experience of moving here. And we've got a staff member coming in. I'll just tell them to bop around quietly once the... That's all right, I can... Okay. So there might be a little bit of editing nonsense that went on there, but we are back. And I was just in the middle of asking you about the immigration experience coming to New Zealand, because I didn't realise how not chatty Kiwis were until kind of recently when I was hosting a pub quiz, and this Canadian couple came up to me and they asked a question about, like, you know, are we allowed to sit anywhere? And I said, yep, sit where you want. And then they just started telling me about their week. Like, the woman was saying, we've both had these horrible colds and we've been up all around. And I just sort of thought, you'd never get this out of a Kiwi person. They would just say, yep, thanks, and then wander off. And so I forget exactly why I asked about, I was just going to say about what's it been like coming over from the States to New Zealand? What's the sort of experience been like there for you?
Yeah, well, I think, we moved to Christchurch about 17 years ago. So we got here and lived here pre-quake, through the quakes. And I think, probably the first shock was how almost... like there was somewhat a lack of diversity, I would say.
Especially Christchurch of all places.
Was kind of the first kind of eye-opening thing. And that's one of the blessings, I think, from the quakes, is it seems to have gotten more diverse post-quake. Because I feel like there's been an influx of various, jobs and things that have had to open up. So I think, just the food scene alone has become much more diverse, which is an amazing thing because I love food. And just culturally, I think... in any environment I've ever worked, the best environments have been the most diverse environments. And so the more variety you get, the more things function well, is my personal experience and opinion. And that's where I think Christchurch has in a way benefited. In that
definitely.
Respect.
I could see that. The food thing is definitely true because, like, probably when I was growing up, people would have no idea what ramen was or anything like that, and now you've got so many of these dedicated ramen stores around.
True.
You've got the Riverside Market is a lot of Asian cuisine, and I think there might be like couple of Mexican places there and stuff, and that's definitely flourished quite a bit in the last few years here in Christchurch. So that's brilliant. I forget exactly why. I think just there was a general chat thing. What was the tiny joy again? It was...
it started with the stale cheesy poof.
That's right,
and led to a food and an immigration and meandering path. But just quickly, speaking of food, Thursday nights they've started kind of bringing back late night food trucks at the art center.
Cool.
So I don't know if it's going to go through all the winter because we're at the start of kind of colder weather now, but it's quite a cool diverse mix of amazing bites. So if you haven't been out to the art center, definitely come check out Thursday nights, the food trucks. So
that sounds really cool. Do they just park up?
They park up so anyone that lived here pre-quake would know there was the kind of alleyway that had food trucks in it pre-quake.
Okay.
And it is, how do you describe the location? Anyway, if you come to the art center, you'll find it because there's signs out. But it's in that kind of general area. It's near what's now called the gym. And it seems like it's just exploded more and more. And they've also started a Saturday kind of artisan market where it used to be on a Sunday. So Saturdays there's lots of food trucks, and then Thursday nights. And we've just been taking our turns and trying all of them, and so far so good. They've all been amazing.
Fantastic. Let's move on, just trying to be conscious of your time. Let's move on to your next tiny joy. What was that?
Bopping a balloon around a room, even if it's just on your own or with other people, like just keeping the balloon in the air. I think that is just like such a fun activity. And we're full grown adults, but it's the same joy that you felt as a child, I swear.
Because I always feel like when you're a child, you almost use your imagination to pretend that you're like a volleyball player, or you have these amazing
slow-mo
exactly. When was the last time you partook in that activity?
Just a couple weekends ago.
Really?
Wow. So it's fresh in the mind.
No, I think that's because, like, it's, again, talking about art and stuff like that, and people not wanting to be wrong and everything like that. I'm a big fan of the idea of, like, because I was asked recently, like, what was your guilty pleasure song? And I thought, like, why should we feel guilty about the things we like?
So true.
And I've always been a big proponent of the sort of, man-child life. Like, I've just
embrace the child.
Like, I've been going back now and beating a lot of video games that I couldn't beat as a child to, like, just...
That must be so satisfying.
It's the best feeling ever. And so, I think that all goes hand in hand with art and silliness and like...
playfulness and
I heard this,
child joy.
Yeah, I heard this fascinating. There were these two actors that I was working with, and they're both drama teachers. And I don't know at what point, because one of them taught anywhere from like 4 years old to 16 or something, and then the other one only taught from about year 9 up. And the one that was teaching the young kids was talking about how they still have their imagination at that point, and if he says go be a fish, they start waving their arms around and just pretending to swim and everything like that. But then the high school kids are just like, that's cringe, like why would we do that? And it's maybe really sad to think that that gets beaten out of us just through life. So I think little things like, I mean, it's tiny joy, right? It's hitting a balloon up in the air, and I feel like that perfectly encapsulates what I'm trying to talk about with tiny joys. So
nice.
That's I feel like that's a tiny joy certified activity there.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me the seal of approval on that one.
Exactly. That could be a merch thing in the future, is to sell balloons with the logo on it or something. I don't know if there's much I can add to it. I agree, and I think it's a great idea.
We should try it after this, and you'll feel the joy of just bopping a balloon. Honestly, the sound, the feel,
when you get a really hard hit and you hear that like boom as it flows.
Exactly. It activates all the senses.
No, you're right. Did you ever get to play with like helium when you were using balloons before? Because that always was a magical moment to me when you got a balloon that actually floated. Very rare, but then when you did, I always enjoyed
magic.
that.
Yeah. That's what birthdays are for. So I gotta go get one today because it's my son's birthday. Gotta do a helium balloon. Gotta have a floaty one.
You could do one helium and one without, so you can sort of
still do the bop.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's wonderful. Should we move on to your next one?
Sure.
I can't add to that much really.
The next one is just fireworks. Anytime there's any opportunity to see fireworks, I know so many people love the joy of fireworks, but it's like just the fact that they exist, I find joyful. That people put energy and time and science and pyrotechnics all mashed together just to bring visual joy in the sky.
That's such an interesting one as well, because I feel like the cultural impression of fireworks is changing. And it's fascinating because I grew up in the 90s, and you didn't even think twice about lighting off, like in your own backyard. Right. Like, your dad would just light it and then run back to the house.
Right, and hope nothing burned down.
And I guess maybe more in the States a little bit. I feel like with the 4th of July, there seems to be a bit of controversy of people going a little bit overboard. Or I saw a hilarious quote that it was the weekend before 4th of July, and it just said, out there's an American that doesn't know it's his last weekend with 10 fingers. And so that's the darker side to fireworks. But I guess I was kind of ignoring the fact of the risk to life and limb aspect of it. But the simple sparkler, there's so much joy in that. It's just something that fizzes and sparkles, and you hope you don't put your eye out with it. But then I made the mistake of touching the hot one after.
It looks like it's out, but actually no, it's still like lava. But also just the ones that you go and you see them
I love those.
Professionally done, and you just think the scale of it, like the effort and the teams and the volume of infrastructure to set one of those shows off. And I just love the fact that still exists. People invest in the time and the money to create something that's purely this bright spot of light in the sky that even the show itself may or may not go ahead because of weather. So there's lots of risk factors involved, not just to your limbs. Right. But then when it all comes together, it's just like that magic moment. So
I feel like those fireworks definitely go hand in hand with like another thing that's come up a lot with doing this podcast is like sunsets. People looking up at the sunsets or looking up at the stars or whatever. True. And did you? Because what day are we recording this? This is the 13th of May, and chronologically last night there was, and even the night before there was the aurora something or other. Yeah. Did you go out and watch that at all?
I've seen so many beautiful photos that people have posted, and the coolest thing is it was global because a lot of our friends are in obviously other corners of the world, and they've got photos from every corner of the world with this amazing aurora activity. Which is so cool to see. And
I've always remember, like, I forget who I heard someone say it, but if you'd never seen the night sky before and then you suddenly could see it, like, you would lose your mind almost, like with how amazing it is to look up at the stars and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's something, it's free.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, we don't get these
There's no charges.
billboards of satellites and stuff that people are talking about, which I really hope that doesn't happen. But
Right.
capitalismo tends to ruin things. But fireworks I think as well is one of those things that it's just nice to look up and see the bright colours and everything.
Yeah.
And
Did you catch the auroras then?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to?
The Kennedy's Bush, we went there, and then it was, when did we go? About 7 o'clock, and then as we were leaving, just non-stop cars were coming out, so it really beat the rush, and got a couple of photos. My camera wasn't very good, but and then a lot of people taking photos, and then on timelines and stuff like that, you see all the photos of it. But
amazing visuals,
yeah. No, it was and I think a lot of people could see it from their backyard and stuff like that. But I think the thing that stops you from seeing it was more light pollution than elevation, because it didn't seem like getting higher up and
made a big difference.
didn't seem like it did. No, so but did you just?
We were out at a hut, and there was a lot of cloud cover where we were actually. But then we looked out the window, and I think I saw a bit of a glow. But then sometimes you're like, are my eyes playing tricks?
Yeah.
And then we've been fortunate that we've done some winters in Antarctica, so
really?
as a job.
Wow.
And so I've seen those ones that just pierce your eyeballs, where you're just like, what the heck is this? And so you sometimes sometimes it's really intense, and sometimes it's like, wow. But any kind of cool, like you said, just the stars alone are awe-inspiring. With or without the colors, it's like it's a win.
you could almost do an art class just to capitalize on that a little bit, where people paint they bring in a photo they took of the aurora and try and paint it.
Oh yeah, we do have an aurora painting that you can see a glow, because we do these black light painting sessions where you turn off the lights and you get the glow. And I've been doing those for many years now. But we do have some aurora inspired ones. So maybe if I'd known the timing right, I would have put that on the calendar.
strike while the iron's hot. I'm sure you could still run it if you could find a spot or something. Is that the fourth one?
That was the fourth one.
So you kind of gave me a warning about the last one might be a little bit heavy, but then after you told me what it is, I thought, no, we definitely need to include this. So what was your last tiny joy there?
So my last tiny joy was getting that call from a surgeon that the operation that a loved one has just gone through was a success. And this is just a very recent and for the last 11 years, because my son has a complex heart condition and has had 4 open heart surgeries and countless other procedures that have had him go under, and we've just recently come back from Starship. So when I think of joys, the first thing that comes to mind is just that pacing the halls of a hospital, getting that phone call and having the surgeon tell you everything went smooth, they're in, your loved one's in recovery, you'll be getting a call shortly when they're awake so you can come through to get them. And the amount of just unbridled joy you feel when you get that call, you almost think it's kind of, not that you ever want your loved one to go through this, but life is a roller coaster. So you kind of have to go through the lows to really experience those highs. And, when I think of a recent tiny joy, that's why I sanity checked it with Taylor, because I was like, I know this isn't a tiny joy, but it's such a profound joy. It's
a human experience, so we've all been in that situation. When you're expecting 100%. A bad phone call and you get a good phone call instead.
Exactly.
What was I going to say about this? I think you said something about the dread you feel when you see the phone number come up. It's like just that whiplash from dread to everything's okay must be you say, a roller coaster to go through.
That's exactly it.
And your boy's all right. You just went through it, and it's his birthday today. So he's still
doing
kicking.
good. He's at school, so that's a good sign, right?
I'm sure he's stoked about that. I never enjoyed school as a kid, though. Maybe your boy likes it.
Well, he's got friends to play Pokemon cards with, So
there you go. That's right. And I guess is there anything else you wanted to add about that kind of what it's like for you as a parent going through that?
It's definitely, everybody has their thing, and I know sometimes you're talking to friends about going through these things, and then they go, oh, I'm sorry, I was complaining about my child's broken arm.
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
like, but that's just as traumatic. You know, it's not a competition who's got the bigger surgery or who's got the bigger hardship. It's anything that we go through in life is, you know, is what you're going through and is valid. So it's not, you know, greater or lesser.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It doesn't invalidate anything.
it doesn't invalidate. Yeah. Everyone's entirely allowed to feel that feeling no matter what, you know, range of severity the thing is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which made me remember the quote about the art related thing that I was thinking of, which was, and I can't remember who this is attributed to, but it's something like, life beats you down and crushes your soul, and art reminds you that you have one.
Oh, that's
and so
really
it's
good. Yeah.
and not just visual art, that's just one flavor, but
Yeah.
I mean, I really encourage people to go out and see comedians like you. That's an art form. I encourage, you know, going out and experiencing music, live music, dance, anything that speaks to your soul. I feel like there's so much healing value as a human being to experience the art, anything related to the arts. And art reminds you that you have a soul. So go out and dive into it.
That's great. Yeah, I was going to say we could continue to talk more about that, but I think that's just a perfect bookend for the end of the podcast, to be honest. I guess, obviously the people that have been listening to this know that I'm a big proponent, of go out and support the arts that you want to see. So yeah, I don't really think I could add anything better that's going to make that any better. So we'll just we'll end it there. So I just want to say thank you for joining me on the podcast and your studio here. Like this, you're obviously a very busy person. We've had stuff going on like all day, so it's, you know, I appreciate you making the time.
Oh, thanks for having me, and it's always great to chat with you.
Yeah, so once again, for the people there, it is Paint and Sip, and that is paintnsip.co.nz.
Correct.
If they want to come out and do painting and educational session
and sipping.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, if you want to paint and or sip, then that's where you go to. You're on the social media as well, right?
Yep.
I assume it's spelt the same, Paint and Sip on Insta. And do you do any other socials?
Insta and Facebook, and I believe my team have started a TikTok account, but I don't have it personally, so I haven't seen anything. But I think, it is Paint and Sip NZ might be the add a little bit, but
I had to do it with my comedy page, was Can Do Comedy NZ.
NZ, because that's where we are, and
sometimes you can't avoid it, right? Well, I'll chuck all those links down in the show notes of this.
Awesome.
Is just anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, thanks for chatting, and
happy to. Alrighty, well, we'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Ruddle Me This. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can find me on social media at Taylor Ruddle Comedy on all the major platforms. You can also join patreon.com/Taylor Ruddle Comedy for free, which gets you access to all sorts of extras and behind the scenes content, as well as allows you to communicate directly with me and let me know what you think of the show. Tune in again next Monday for another episode of Ruddle Me This, and until then, Ruddle her out.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.